And then Josiah said, let's come over here. And he said, I'm going to promise God I'm going to live this way. And I want everyone else to do the same thing. And they all did. They stood to the covenant. When he made it, he made it public. We're going to make a promise to God, a covenant with God. We're going to live by his law. We're going to do what he says. He said, are you with me? And all the people stood to the covenant. That means they joined in. They said, we're going to do exactly what you say. Okay? Sad part is, this revival is only going to last one generation. Okay? This generation, where Josiah stands up and says, let's do this, everybody agrees to it. The next generation, the generation, 2 generations after that, they're all carried away into captivity. Okay? They're all, none of them live in the city of Jerusalem anymore. None of them are serving God anymore. They're all in Babylonian captivity, which we'll get the book of Daniel. And they're all carried away because the Egyptians came in first and robbed them because they disobeyed God. There's nothing you can do to make sure, to guarantee that your kids are going to serve God. If you do everything you're supposed to do, you cannot guarantee the decisions they're going to make as adults. Okay? And you think Josiah as a kid make this decision. Michelle asked last week, how can a kid be crowned king when he's 8 years old? He was crowned king, but the priests ran everything for him, or his advisors ran everything until he was old enough to make the decision. Okay? But when he made the decisions, he said, let's serve God wholeheartedly. They found the Bible, let's read it, let's read it to everybody else. And then he said, he made a covenant with God and says, okay, who's going to join me? And everybody stood up and said, we're going to do it. Okay? Because they'd seen what had happened to everybody else. It's kind of like this. Probably everybody in this room has seen other people's lives completely destroyed by sin, right? Everybody knows somebody, right? So one of the kids asked me something today about somebody, and I said, one of my best friends from my childhood is in prison today and will never get out because of the crimes he committed. And I mean, others wrecked and ruined their lives at a young age and never recovered from it. And you can say, I don't want to go down that road. I don't want to do that. So everybody has known other people, family, friends, whatever, neighbors, and said, I don't want that. I want to make a promise or a covenant with God. Now, we're redeemed by the blood of Christ. We're saved by grace, but in our heart of hearts, we can either decide, I want to follow as close to him as I can so that the boundaries that I set, that my kids are going to be at least close to the boundaries, right? If they set their boundaries up here, they're going to be close. Here's the center, here's the outside edge. If I set my boundaries here and live by these boundaries, then if my kids follow me, they'll be at least this close, right? I mean, we've known people that the parents are here and the kids are way over yonder somewhere. And we also know people that are way over yonder and the parents are wicked, and then the kids come in and get saved and their lives are completely transformed. So I looked at this. I want to look at a couple of things that Josiah as a king, the thing that he did, besides swearing the way he would do it, and the people promised they'd join him. I want to look at a couple of things he did, just the next couple of verses, and see how it applies to us if we will do, in our heart of hearts, do exactly what Josiah did. Okay? Let's go on to the next verse. Chapter 23, verse 4. Okay? Because in verse 3 is where he makes the covenant with God, and everyone stands to it, everyone agrees to it. Verse 4. And the king commanded Hilkiah the high priest, and the priest of the second order, and the keeper of the door, to bring forth out of the temple of the Lord all the vessels that were made for Baal, and for the grove, and for all the hosts of heaven, and he burned them without Jerusalem in the field of Kidron, and carried the ashes of them to Bethel. Look at this way, okay? Here's God's house. Here's the temple of God. In the temple of God, we don't have anything in here this is not a shrine, okay? But if we have anything that would represent God, it'd be our cross, right? That would be our. Okay, when they were worshiping idols, they would bring an idol in. Okay, we think of idols today, we think of a little Buddha statue or something like that. But they'd bring their idols into the house of God, and they'd put them up everywhere in the temple or in the court of the temple. Josiah took all those things out. Anything that was abomination to God, that was idolatry. He took it all out, took it outside, took it out in the field, and they burned it. Okay. Now, how do you think the other people got mad at him for doing that? Would the people that worship Baal get mad? Debbie said, shake her head, yes. Of course they would. Okay. If you gathered up all the idols in America today, man, you've got TV shows called American Idol. if you gathered up all the idols in America today and took them out in the yard and burned them, you'd be forced to have a huge bonfire. Okay, burn for years. Okay, but you'd be thrown in jail for doing it. Okay, if you went and got a anything that okay, God's supposed to be front and center of your life. Anything you place between Him and God becomes idolatry. Okay, anything takes a priority over what God said, whether it's your opinion or something else that you want to do, whatever it is. Anything you place between you and God is idolatry. But our world is filled with idol things. Okay, even trinket things that people that are more important than. Okay, for a lot of people, their boat becomes their idol, right? Or their golf clubs, whatever it is, because it's what is more important than going to church on Sunday. Or more important to have a relationship with God is they got to have a boat, they got to have golf clubs, they got to have whatever it is. Okay, if you took all those things that every Christian has and took them outside and burn them, you have a huge bonfire. But we're not responsible for anybody else except for the people in this room. Okay, so here's what we do. Here's to do what Josiah did. It means for us, if our body is a temple of the Holy Ghost, we got saved, the Holy Spirit lives inside of us, then anything that is inside of us that is idolatry, we want to burn it. Okay? Anything inside of us that you say, this is, okay. There was a t-shirt that I had when I got saved that I wore all the time, a lot, before I got saved. I was 17 years old. Anything that's that old probably tore up by now, deep dive right by now anyway. But anyway, so 40 years ago when I got saved, there was a t-shirt that I had. I won't explain to you what it was on it, but it was not a godly thing that was on the front of my t-shirt that I had. Okay, and I had it for a while after I got for a long time after I got saved and continued wearing it. Didn't even think anything about it. But then I looked at it one day when I was putting it on and said, I shouldn't wear this. Okay, that is not glorifying to God, not pleasing to God. I shouldn't. And it was glorifying sin. So what do I do with it? I didn't wear it anymore. I turned it into a rag to wash my car with. You know, just and then eventually just threw it away. And I didn't want to go back and get another one. I thought anything inside of us that takes that priority that says this is more important than having a relationship with God, I'm gonna get rid of it. Okay? If there's things that I do, or things that's in my heart, or things that's in my house that I want. I know there's some Christians that drink. Okay, to me, drinking. Proverbs chapter 20, verse 1: wine is a mocker, strong drink is raging. Whosoever is deceived thereby is not sin. Yeah, I mean, it's not wise. So to me, all drinking is sin. That is not a condemnation of me condemning other people to drink. Okay, that's me looking at it. When I read that verse, I says I can't take a drink. I don't want to take a drink. I drank a lot before I got saved. It was acceptable in the church that I grew up in that everybody drank wine, beer, whatever it was, and they never preached against it. It wasn't they never preached against it. They read that verse different than what I read the verse. So they condoned the drinking part. But in my heart of hearts, I want liquor in my house. Okay, I can't stand the fact that I even have family members to this day that still would offer me a drink when they saw me today. I mean, if we're family together, you want one? No. Okay, and even they know I haven't had one in almost 40 years, but they would still offer. Okay, in my heart of hearts, that's something I had to get rid of. Okay, for some people it's smoking. Okay, some of you smoke. Okay, there are churches that think if you smoke you lose your salvation. Scripture's not in there. Okay, you don't lose your salvation for smoking. Okay, you don't lose your salvation if you drink. I mean, you lose your joy for doing something with different things. But the truth is, there's nothing in there. You know, when the only place I can find in there that you mentioned, there's nothing. Is the word cigarette in the Bible? It's not in there, Charlie. Did you look? Okay. You know what's in there? It says Rebecca lighted off her camel. Okay, that's about as close as I can find. She wasn't lighting up a camel cigarette. Yeah. Okay, she lit off. She jumped off her camel. Okay, Jessica says that's not smoking. Okay, it's not smoking. It's the closest thing you can find to anything. Okay, it's supposed to be funny. You're supposed to laugh when I think it's funny. Okay, never mind. Okay, there's nothing in there about it. Preacher and I both smoked when I first got saved. No one ever preached against smoking. So we continued to smoke. And the first time I ever heard anybody preach against smoke, Preacher and I went to a preaching service. I don't remember where it was at, up Elk River somewhere, right along Elk River, 119. We went to service, and the pastor, the man that was preaching that night, preached one of the things he preached against was smoking. Okay, and Preacher Dave and I both smoked, and we'd never heard anyone preach against smoking before, other than we'd heard that another church that we'd never been to said you lose your salvation if you smoke. We'd heard they say that they said that. We didn't, not in scriptures. So this preacher that night got up and he preached against smoking. He mentioned other things, but in like 10 minutes he ran on smoking. And it kind of bothered me. He said, I never read it in there. Okay? Preacher and I got out, we're getting the truck to come home, and he said, shame for a fat man preaching against smoking in it. Because he says, you're defiling the temple. I mean, and that's what the preacher was saying that night. If you smoke, you're defiling the temple. And this preacher weighed about 350 pounds. And so he said, Preacher Dave said, neither of us were preachers at the time, he said, shame for a fat man to preach against smoking, because he's using the scriptures that says you're defiling the temple. And he's, okay, there's more in scripture about gluttony than there is anything about smoking. So anyway, but to me, smoking became bad when the guy I worked with, who was a good friend of mine, who was an usher in our wedding, we're real good friends. At work and away from work, we were good friends. And to this day, he's my friend. When I'd been saved for a short period of time, and he said, I was witnessing to him while we were working, and he said, but I can't quit drinking. I can't quit. I said, I can't quit drinking. I said, I quit when I got saved. He said, but you didn't quit smoking. And I didn't even think about it. Smoking. It meant something to him. It meant something to my friend that I smoked. So I took him out of my pocket, set him up on the counter, and I said, I won't smoke another one. Okay? Now, and I didn't. Why? Because it meant something to him. Was it convicting to me to smoke? Didn't bother me a bit. Okay? I didn't think that. I hadn't been saved very long, but I couldn't find anything in scripture about it. For me, today, though, for me, I couldn't. Okay? Because it means something to somebody else. And I don't want to now, but it would mean something to somebody else if I started it. Okay? At Canaan Baptist Church, where Tammy and I got saved, almost between Sunday school and church, there'd be about 20 people outside lighting up with that 15-minute time between Sunday school and church. We take a little break, and everybody's smoking and putting cigarettes out as we go to the door. Except for Jim Pearson, he didn't smoke. He had to eat a banana because there's some medication he's on. He had to eat a banana every day. So when we walk outside to smoke, he'd eat a banana. Anyway, if there's something in your heart that you know is between you and God, get rid of it. You can't really take it out. You can't take something outside of you, take from the inside of you, take it out and burn it. But if you burn something up, you can't go back to it, right? You look at something and say, I'm not going to do that again. Something that was big to me before I got saved was my music. I loved music. I had real expensive stereo, my Laughlin stereo, I call it, in the little car. And my stereo speaker system, I was 17 years old, had everything I wanted. Shortly, a while after I got saved, Tammy and I have been married by this time, so it's probably about 2 years after I got saved, I heard someone preach on music, on rock music. And I loved ZZ Top and different stuff. The music that I listen to, I can still quote the words to the songs. You know, a lot of Pink Floyd stuff. No, it's okay. I won't quote that one in church. I like that music, okay? But I heard someone preach against it, and in my heart of hearts one time, I thought, that's probably not good. I started listening to the words that I could sing those words. And to this day, I could tell you the meaning of the song, or some of the words of the song. And in my heart of hearts, I said, I don't want that. Okay? And Preacher David and I David and I were going on visitation one night. We got to church. Lloyd gave us a piece of paper. He said, I want you to go visit this person. And I got my little car to drive away. And I had the stereo turned up all the way. You know, so if you ever realize, by that time I was 19 years old. If you're 19 years old and you have a big stereo speaker, big system in your car, you crank that thing up. So as soon as I turned the key, we couldn't hear each other talk, so I turned it down. So the next week when we got out to get in the car, Dave pulled a cassette out of his pocket and he said, try this one. And I popped this one out, put the other one in. It's gospel quartet music. I said, I love that. And within about 2 weeks, I realized I had not listened to any of my cassettes that I had in the car anymore. And I gave them away to somebody else. Okay, I didn't want them. There's something inside. It's the same. to me, I didn't take them out and burn them. People do that just for a show sometimes. But I didn't take them out and burn them. But in my heart of hearts, I didn't want that anymore. Because there's something that said, to you, it may not be idolatry. To me, it was. Okay? To you, when I mention these things, they might mean anything to music, smoking, drinking, whatever it is. Those things may not mean anything to you on a personal conviction thing. But to me, they were. And when I started thinking about them, whether I read scriptures about it, and on the thing of the music thing, David was a psalmist. And read the story of when Saul was going crazy, and David came in and played the harp. And what songs was he singing? He was singing the psalms that he wrote. Okay, and playing the harp, and it changed Saul's spirit. And so, how long has this been now? 38 years since I changed my music. That I've gone back and done studies on music and say, okay, I can change. I can change people's spirits or attitudes by changing their music. Little girl, I don't know if you saw me talking to a little girl before church up here. She got to fight on the van on the way to church. Okay, she had to fight with somebody every time she leaves her house. Probably at her house. But I had to sit her down, have a discussion with her. I almost guarantee what she listened to at home. Okay, because the spirit is they're angry all the time. Okay, a lot of the rage music or whatever they're listening to, it feeds this anger. Okay, so something inside of you, it doesn't have to be things I mentioned. Something inside of you says, I know. Take it out and burn it. Say, I don't want that to be a hindrance to me. Okay? Let's see what else Josiah did. Look at the next verse, verse 5. He put down the idolatrous priests whom the king of Judah had ordained to burn incense in the high places of the cities of Judah, and in the places round about Jerusalem. Them also that burned incense unto Baal, to the sun, to the moon, to the plants, to all the hosts of heaven. It's the same thing as verse 4. It says all the hosts of heaven. Stop reading right there. Here's something else Josiah did. He took all the people that the world says is really important. The priests that were worshiping Baals offered sacrifices to Baal and different. They offered sacrifices to all the hosts of heaven. Okay, to every quote God, little g God. Okay, they offered sacrifice to everybody. Josiah not just burned out the images, the stuff that was in him. He changed his perspective on what the world says. The people that the world says is important, like the religious people. Okay, or the people that sets this person up on a pedestal and says we've got to do what they say. Wow. Okay, Josiah's perspective on these people changed. On these people that all the world worshipped. Okay, all of Jerusalem bowed down to these people like they're a god, telling them to do something, going away from God. God's this direction, and the people that are leading them this direction, everybody else just followed along, walked away from God, going away from God. And Josiah said, those people were bad. I'm not going to listen to what they say. He removed them from any office that they had. It's kind of like, man, in today's terminology, he said, verse 5 says, he put down the idolatrous priests in a proper perspective of evil people, whether it's famous people, religious people, politicians, or influential people of any sort that the world says you're supposed to be like these people. I say, why? Okay? The world sets people up on a pedestal. We want to be like those people. Why? I won't be like them. They're miserable. Okay? Why want them with the same misery that the rest of the world has? And the world makes it look like it's going back to the drinking or whatever it is. The world makes it look glamorous. Okay? Or all the beer commercials telling every 15, 12-year-old boy that if they drink beer, they're going to have bikini-clad girls running around them all the time. That's the way the beer commercials are. What the world says, this is glamorous, or this is big, Josiah says, it's not. God's big. And all this other stuff is just foolishness. And the people that promote stuff that is bad are foolishness. Let's go to the next two verses. We'll go together. Verse 6 and 7. And he, that's Josiah, brought out the grove from the house of the Lord without Jerusalem under the brook Kidron, and burned it at the brook Kidron, and stamped it small to powder, and cast the powder thereof upon the graves of the children of the people. And brake down the houses of the Sodomites that were by the house of the Lord, where the woman wove hangings for the groves. Stop reading right there. What's the grove? Here's what it is. The groves, Hebrew tongue, it's called Ashram, were devoted to the worship of Asherah, who was a Babylonian goddess Ishtar, or Aphrodite of the Greeks, or the Venus of the Romans. Here's the next thing. If I look at like history, recent history, we don't want to say that almost all stuff on TV is sex crazed stuff. Okay, it's promoted stuff that's immoral. So we don't watch TV much at our house, but someone told me recently that you can hardly find, because the next thing was the next verse was broke down the house of the Sodomites. You can hardly find any TV shows that is not promoting homosexuality today, or some kind of perversion. Debbie's nodded her head right. Anybody else? Is there stuff on TV all the time today that's promoting homosexuality or promoting immorality? Okay, and it's just like it's the big thing. Like everyone's doing. Okay, everyone's going this route. I remember a girl who used to work with us years ago. She'd gone back she'd been out of high school for probably close to 10 years, and she hadn't been around any of her friends. But she went back to her friends for a school reunion. She was shocked. She was a Christian girl. She was shocked by how immoral everybody was. She says it was like a TV show going in. The women were kissing women, and it's like, this is not what's supposed to be. This is, it's not right. Okay. And all the world promotes it as being big. This is what you're supposed to be doing. And Josiah, the king, said, what's God say about it? Because they just read it in the law. And what does God say about it? How are we supposed to live our life? Okay, there's a guy I worked with one time that he left his wife for somebody else. And he was starting to tell me about it. I said, I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to know. He was talking about why he left his wife for somebody else. I said, according to scriptures, because he asked me about it, he wanted to justify his actions for his choices. And I said, there's no difference between you leaving your wife to go with that woman than if you left your wife and went with this guy over here. He said, no, that ain't right. I said, it's the same sin, because you're controlled by a gland in your body, one little gland in your body controlling your whole life. Matter of fact, if you read through, if Josiah read the Old Testament law, if you leave your wife for this woman over here, and you leave your wife to go to this woman, then there's no difference between you leaving your wife or going with that man over there, or you going with some other beast over here, an animal. He said, no. According to scripture, it's the same thing. Okay, it's being controlled by something, one little gland in your body. Maybe it's an innocence kind of thing that I kind of grew up in as a child, but didn't think that people lived that way. But this goes back like 2,600 years. And God said, I destroyed the Sodomites for a reason. And every godly king of Judah destroyed the Sodomites, destroyed their houses. And as soon as the godly kings were gone, the wicked people would come back, and they built a house beside the temple of God for the homosexuals who live. Sodomites, homosexuals. Okay, I don't even use the word gay because it's still in the term. They would come in and say, we want to do what we want to do. Okay, just like the building next door. When it was for sale, Chris Reed bought it. He's a nice guy. He's going to put a restaurant in over there. I kind of went over and joked with him about, are you putting a bar in over here next to the church? Okay, because that's what the world would do. You can put a strip club in next door. Okay, I joked about it. People. I joked, oh yeah, we'll come over right at the church. He's got a hot dog. It's like it's just going to be similar to hillbilly hot dogs. You ever been there down that place? Okay. It's kind of sad, but every godly king that cleared out those people, as soon as that godly king was dead, Josiah's lifetime does the same thing. As soon as he's gone, the wicked come in and do the same thing. Here's the house of God. They build a house next to it for the evil people. Because all the worship, Aphrodite or Venus or whatever it is, almost all idolatry has some kind of perversion mixed into it. And it kind of goes that route. And Josiah, we're not going to do that. Okay? We're not going to have that here. Someone asked one time, a girl that grew up in this church started dating another woman after she was grown up, and she wasn't in church anymore. She got out of church for a couple of years, and she was dating another woman. And she said she asked if she could come back to church. Well, I said, yeah, you can come back to church. You can behave yourself while you're here. You know, I said it wouldn't matter to me if you're living for this woman. I said if you're living with a woman or you're living with a man, and the sin is the same. Okay? But you're going to behave yourself. If you want to come to church, you're welcome to come to church. It's not going to change what we preach. We'll still teach and preach the same things we always preach and teach. But you're going to behave yourself while you're here. So, oh yeah, we'll behave yourself while you're here. But then it comes. When Josiah read in the law of God that these people were evil, that they had no boundaries, he said, I'm going to fix it. I'm not going to change. I'm not going to change what this says just because the neighbors don't like it. I'm not going to change what this says just because someone wants to come in here and offer sacrifices. You know, half the people that he ran out, we took out their idols and burned them. Half those people were offering their own children in fires to a god called Molech. Okay, they would burn up their own children, Miss Joe, in the fire. Okay, why? Because they wanted to please their God. Just like on Amazon, someplace where people used to take their babies and feed them to the crocodiles, okay, to appease their gods. Okay. Any questions on that? You got any questions on it? You may have something inside your heart that you think, I need to get rid of that. You think, I need to get rid of that. Just think that, you know what's the worst part of my heart? Pride. Okay? I need to get rid of that. I need to work on that. Or every one of us has something, and God says, "Why don't you work on that?" They opened the cages on the zoo, didn't they, Charlie? Okay, I'm glad. I glad to hear there's 12 kids up there in the teen class. I love them. Okay, and teen class? That would be the teen. I don't know which class it is. Anyway, they're all having fun. Okay. Saddest thing of this, of all the story of Josiah, saddest story is, as soon as he's gone, he lives about 39 years old. As soon as he's gone, his sons after them, they just turn right back to it. Okay? It's a choice. Right, just leave him. You're right. Right. Because they want to do their thing without the baby's just an inconvenience to them. Mm-hmm. Right. Right. Their great-grandparents. Right. And their great-grandparents have raised them, right? Yeah. Why? So, somewhere along the line. Okay. Right. To the biological parents. They don't exist. That's sad. Okay? It ain't supposed to be that way. And society is making these steps completely away from what Scripture says. And they're trying to pass a thing where they read the Bible, study the Bible in school. I don't know if it's passed yet or not. But society says you do what you think, do your own thing, do your own thing, do your own thing. And there's no, and when someone comes back and says, to grab the parent and set them up and say, you grow up, you raise this child now. Okay? Because you're supposed to be an adult. You raise your child. It'd be like Josiah saying, come on over here. Let's get our boundaries right. Okay? Someone, at Christmas time, someone told me a story right after Christmas. They said a rebellious kid came in to the family gathering at Christmas time. It was not a child of the person who was talking to me. The rebellious kid came in, wanted to gather his money, the Christmas cards that grandma gave him and the aunt and uncle gave him or whatever, they wouldn't take his money and go. As soon as he got his money, he wanted to leave. And the adult in the room wanted to jerk him up and say, sit there and talk to your grandparents. Sit there for just a minute. Don't run out, okay? Don't get the scowl off your face and grow up just a little bit. The kid didn't do it. Okay. In your heart of hearts, is there something between you and God? Burn it. Okay? In your heart of hearts, is there a standard you need to set for your family and say, this is what we're going to do? Now, you can't guarantee they're going to follow along, right? You can't guarantee. You can't force your children as adults to make the decisions that you made, or the wise choices that you made. You can't decide. Rebecca's 27 years old. I can't control her decisions now. Okay? She can control Josiah's decisions because he's only 2, right? At 27, we can't control her decisions. Now, I'm 57. If my parents were still alive, they couldn't control my decisions. Okay? All right. Any questions? Comments? Thank you, Lord, for loving us. I pray you help us to examine our own hearts. If there's something we need to get rid of, we'll get rid of that thing. If there's something that's between me and you, between us and you, as a church family, we'll take care of it. Anyway, help us to raise our standards up, that we live a life that our kids want to follow, and our grandkids want to follow. That we have a joy, show them something that's a joy within us that they would want, and the boundaries for them to follow. Thank you for loving us. In Jesus' name we ask. Amen. There's certain things where we live that the boundaries never change. I wasn't allowed to cross Route 21 when I was a kid. Rebecca wasn't allowed to cross Route 21 when she was a kid. Josiah is not going to be allowed to cross when he has to stroll out there by his own. It's not going to allow. That boundary's not going to change, right? I got whooped for it. We know Mr. Christie's house. See the ponies up on the hill with Roger, and I got whooped for it. So some boundaries shouldn't change. All right, thank you. You dismissed.